All right. So before we can actually create our website, there are two important things we need to put in place before we can proceed to creating our website. And that is having a domain name and hosting account. All right. So I'm pretty sure most of us know what a domain name is, but for the sake of this course, let me go through it. A domain name is an address that would route your customers to your website. All right. Just like you have google.com or facebook.com or amazon.com, jumia.com, that will tell the browser that I actually want to visit, this IP address. All right. So that domain name is a user-friendly address that your users or your customers will use to access your website. Okay, that is for the domain name. And the second thing, like we mentioned, that you need before you can have your website is actually your hosting account. Because if you have your domain name, you need somewhere to have your website. Your website is not just going to be on the air, it's actually going to be hosted in certain computers, you know, that there are certain computers that would host this website for you, which you would be able to access over the internet using your domain name. I hope that makes sense. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. The domain name is an address you would use to access your website, and the hosting account or the hosting service is a collection of is a bunch of computers that you're buying a space. All right, that I want to keep my website in this space, and I want to be able to access it when I call, when I call for this domain name like google.com bring out my website. So that is it. So that's two separate things: a domain name and and an hosting account. All right. So to access that, what you need to do is quickly let's just jump to our browser and go to mizak.net/hosting. All right. Okay, so we are actually going to be purchasing our hosting from Namecheap. All right. So there are different types of hosting, but would advise you to go for the shared hosting. Okay, you can see WordPress hosting. It's I don't advise you to go for that because it's actually expensive, and you get little, very very little service for that fee. All right, so your best bet is to go for the shared hosting. Okay, and they have the yearly or the monthly plan. All right, depending on your budget, you can decide to go for the yearly plan. It will actually be cheaper at the end. But if you don't have such a budget, because if you go for the yearly plan, you'll be paying about I think that will be about $24. And this is for the hosting. This is not for the domain. All right. So, but when you are purchasing this hosting account, you are going to need to buy a domain. So that domain is what we are going to use, for our website. All right. So, let's say we choose the monthly, which is going to be about $4.48, or the yearly, whichever one you choose. So we say get started. This will actually work for you because this particular one would allow you host 3 websites. So apart from these websites that we're going to put you through to be able to host, if you want to make additional websites, you can do that without actually needing to purchase another domain name, another hosting account. You might need to buy a domain name if you want, or you can just have a subdomain. For instance, if your website or if you purchase a domain name called maybe bolafashion.com, if you want to create another website, you can just call it maybe uh, bags.bolafashion.com. That you won't need to pay extra for. That's what we refer to as subdomain. But if you want a different domain name, probably for another brand, you have another brand that you call that Tolu Fashion, you will need to buy a separate domain name. I hope that makes sense. So for this, you would let's go ahead and get started with this plan, the stellar hosting. Uh, okay. So here you can see it's asking us to that we need a domain name. Do we want a new domain name or an existing domain name? If we already have a Namecheap account and you have an existing domain name, you can just go ahead and use an existing domain. But for this case, we will need a new, we need to purchase a new domain. All right. So currently, our total is about 22.8, and that's if you are uh, going with the yearly plan. Okay, so if you have a limited budget and you want to start with monthly, it's going to be less than that. To just be about four dollars 48 per month. All right, but that's excluding the domain. The domain is going to be yearly. For instance, we say we want to buy Bola. Let's see, it's available. Okay, Bola Fashion is not available. It's just a store. Let's see. Okay, yeah, Polar Fashion Store is available. So let's assume we want to go for this domain, and our new e-commerce website we're trying to develop is Polar Fashion Store. All right, so just click this and you scroll down and say connect to hosting. Like I said, the hosting account, you need to connect a domain with it, and that's why it's important you click connect to hosting. All right, so your total that you have to pay will be $14.24. So you go ahead and say add to cart, and just follow the prompts to purchase the hosting account. So there's one challenge that you might face, and is the challenge of, okay, of course you'd go ahead and create an account and follow the prompts. I already have an account and I already have an hosting plan. All right, so I will just skip this and log into my cPanel. But before we get to that, there are certain challenges that people face when they are trying to sign up or when they are trying to purchase their hosting plan, and that's with the fact that it's not a Nigerian website. You have to purchase this with a dollar card, or at least you have to purchase with dollars. And there's so much CBN rules right now that would prevent you from using your usual card, maybe your usual bank card, to make the purchase. So if you can be lucky, you can try it and you'll be able to make the purchase, which would be amazing. But in most cases, they're usually that challenge. So what I have done is that there are certain vendors who can help you to purchase this hosting plan, and they're trusted is what they do. Because of this problem, they have tried to create the solution. So I'm going to just drop the details below this video, below this very video they are watching. You'll be able to see the details of the person. You can, I will drop a link such that you can just click on the link and try to, contact them via WhatsApp. So they will give you the total. They have a little charge that they charge for the service. They will make it clear for you, and they will give you the conversion rates and all of it. So you can go ahead if you will. They will help you to purchase the hosting, and it will make the whole process easy. They have the way they do it. They have the dollar account and all of that. So they will do it easily. And you might be lucky if you have a PayPal account or you have a way you can pay for things online, you can go ahead and pay for it. All right. So anyhow that you prefer to do it, you can go ahead and do it like that. So yeah, that being said, I would log into my hosting account. All right. So I'm logged in now. I'll click go to cPanel to access my cPanel account. Okay, and another advantage of using those guys that actually help you to set up your hosting account is they'll save you some of the stress of doing some of the settings that we're going to actually go through under the cPanel. So they'll actually help you buy the hosting and install the WordPress for you. So they'll just give you a login and you can start designing straight up. So that's another advantage of using them. But if you are able to purchase the hosting by yourself, you can actually follow through and just try to follow the steps like we have mentioned here. So we'll just go ahead and click go to cPanel. So it's open the cPanel in another tab. So essentially what a cPanel is actually a dashboard that gives you access to do lots of things with your hosting space. And from the things that you have access to is actually create an email account, actually create a new domain or subdomain or different things you can, there's a lot of things you can do with your cPanel account. All right. So here, what we need to do is we need to come over to domains. So we need to come over to domains. I already have a domain I want to use. I'm just going to use a subdomain. However, in your own case, you would have a new domain name, but you need to add it to the cPanel, and that will be able to use for our website. So, for instance, if your domain, you have to come over here to create a new domain. So, if the domain name you bought was maybe Bola Hosting, Bola Fashion Store.com, whatever is the domain you bought, you have to come over here and create the domain under your cPanel, and that way you'll be able to use it with whatever website you are going to create under your hosting account. So, but in my own case, I'm not using this. If that was your case, you just add it and you say submit. All right, but in my own case, I'm going to be using a subdomain. So I can actually access it from here and say Bola Fashion. All right. So I say submit. All right. So the domain is successfully added. The next thing we want to do, now that we have our domain ready, the next thing we want to do is actually install the website to the domain, or to say to connect the domain to our website. And for the website, we are going to be using WordPress. All right. So what WordPress is basically is like a software we are going to install on our hosting accounts that does the functionality of creating the website for us. So a lot of us will be familiar with what a WordPress account is or what WordPress website is. But for those of us that are not familiar with it, we need to understand the fact that WordPress is like a set of softwares that makes creating our websites easier. All right. So we can decide to say we want to create our website from scratch and begin to code code the home page, code this, code that with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But WordPress would save you all of that, and that's why it's usually referred to as no code programming. So you can actually create a website without having to write a line of code. The fun fact is that a lot of websites on the internet now are actually hosted using WordPress, up to even 60% of the websites you see on the internet are actually hosted with WordPress. So it is actually a very reliable way to create your website. So what we're going to do is we'll come over here to home and we'll scroll. Okay, here you can scroll all the way down and look for WordPress Manager by Softaculous. Another thing you can do is just search here and search for WordPress. All right, so you just click on this. So all you need to do is just follow these steps. The way I'm doing it is there's nothing complex about it. They're actually very simple things to do. After this, we'll go straight to actually creating and editing our website. So what we want to do is click on this install. So we then select the domain. The first thing you want to make sure it's always HTTPS, not HTTP, because if the S is not there, that means the website is not secure. And we're just going to select the domain name we recently created. In my own case, I called it baller fashion. That's what we want to work with. It would say a trusted SSL certificate was not found. Don't worry. Namecheap actually gives you free SSL certificates with your domain, especially for the first year. Subsequently, you might need to buy the certificate, but for the first year, it will actually install it for you, and you don't have to, worry about that. So the next thing you want to do is come over to the site name. You can decide to edit this, or I will just leave it like that since we can still change all of those from the dashboard. So here I would change the admin username and the password and the admin email. All right. Okay. So once you fill those, you have to create a username, a password, a desired password. And while creating the password, you have to use something that is very strong for two reasons. Number one, security of your website. If an hacker gets access to you know to your website because you used a very weak password, that could be very costly. And since you are dealing with business, hackers are always after business websites and they want you to try and divert the funds, and some will even try to blackmail you. So you need to use a very strong password. And if you don't use a strong password, this installer won't let you go forward. I think it has to be at least, I'm not very sure, it's in 90 or something. But use a very strong password and you see that this is going to be clean. All right. So after that, you can decide to. I usually don't check this. I don't want to check anything. So I'll say install. So it takes a few minutes, and once it is installed, we can begin setting up our website. So it has been installed. So if you go ahead and click on the domain name that is here, it should take us to our website. It will say the connection is not private. Don't worry, it takes a while for the SSL to get installed. So we'll just go ahead and click advance, proceed. All right, so it would go to the website. Okay, the website, this is what we have on the website. It's a very simple, plain theme. There's nothing on the website. It's a blank WordPress website. So this is what we are going to work with and actually turn to something like this. So we need to access the back end of this website. And to do that, we just need to take this link and add /WP admin. Or I want to do that, and we click enter. It should take us to the back end of the website. Okay, now we can see we are at the back end of the freshly installed WordPress account. The next thing we need to do is actually begin to develop the website. So we're going to do that in the next video.